It's after 3 o'clock in the morning, but there's just like something that's on my heart, that God put on my heart to put out, a message to put out. And I wrote it down, so I'm just gonna read that because it's not a lot, but it's a lot to remember. So I wrote it, and I'll read what I wrote. God's timing. What is God's timing? God's timing encompasses his plan, not our plan, but his plan. And God orders the steps of the godly. When we are in place to be used, the best place that you can be is in a place where God is using you. A question I used to ask is, how do I position myself to be used by God? God uses us in our obedience. Whatever God is telling you to do it without question. I know many may have heard this message before, but in obedience, God is calling me to speak about what he's bringing to the forefront of my life. And not just my life, but to the forefront of whatever is transpiring spiritually right now. A lot of times our human will gets in the way of what God is calling us to do, or where he's calling us. The devil will trick our egos into thinking we know best and that we are the light bearers on our own. Only God's will can bring in order and light that the world is in desperate need of. There's no way around obedience. There's no way around it. And the crazy part is, God is so patient. And the journey to push through the rubble of self to walk in obedience, he's so patient with us, because I think what no one talks about is when you start to understand what obedience is and you start walking with Christ, there's a point where for a lot of people where it's just like, okay, but how am I going to do this? Or like yourself starts talking, or I don't want to do it, And so, but God is really patient with us when he knows he's calling us to something, um, and he knows there's things in the way. He's so patient. He's there holding out his hand for us to take it. When time is of the essence and he's calling you forth, there will be a pulling feeling that you won't be able to shake. And that's what I've been dealing with recently. It's just like I know that God has said this, but in some way I don't feel ready. And it's one of those things where you'll never feel like you're ready, but he's calling you to do what he's asked you to do because he knows, right? But when he really is like, he's really calling you, and he's been calling you for a while, you'll start to feel this pulling. Like you're unable to go on. And you may also, you may experience spiritual warfare in that time of the pulling. And it's just a time to, God is calling you towards him and he's holding out his hand. And the devil knows what God is calling you to do for his kingdom or bring forth. And so a lot of times there will be warfare to get us, to keep us from doing what God is calling us to do. And so it's a matter of pressing into prayer and just doing what he's calling us to do. I realize that right now, as I'm speaking, a lot of warfare is avoidable. through obedience. A lot of times we go through the things, and I'm a baby Christian, so I'm learning, right? I'm still learning, like, oh, it's cause it's because um God was calling me and I didn't answer the call. And so now the devil is attacking me, so I can't answer the call. Um so yeah, and it's a matter of just answering his call, and he has his hand out offering for us to take it, and we have to take it. Um, um, until you do what God had, oh yes, until you do what God has told you to do, there's going to be a pulling feeling. There's going to be a pull. Um, I'm going to end this message um, with saying that God is calling me to say this because whatever is going to take place in the world or just in the US, people need to pick up whatever God is telling us to do, um, because time is of the essence. And the people who he is getting to who he is going to use need to get in position by being obedient. So yes, that's what I had on my heart to bring forth. It's really early in the morning. I have to go to work I have to get ready for work in like an hour. But yeah, God called me to bring that forth. And I don't know, sometimes I'm like, well, I don't need to say that. It's already been said. But I know God has a purpose in calling, his children to do what he is saying to do, to be in obedience. He knows better. He knows best. So, yes.